Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It is once again that time of the week where the weekly challenge races get themselves updated, and I'm going to dive into all of them and give you a brief overview of what to expect from both the races themselves and the rewards. This week we also see the return of a special limited time event, so it does seem that maybe once every fourth week we're going to get a new limited time event. Obviously we had one on week 1 and we've got one now on week 4, very similar to the previous one as well. But we're going to dive in and have a look at an overview of the events to expect as well as the rewards themselves. So we're going to start off with November week 4 with the Sunday Cup at Lake Maggiore. This is going to be again a very easy race, and it's going to get a bit hard as we go through them, so sort of from left to right it's almost like beginner friendly up to something a bit more complex towards the end, so they kind of increase themselves in difficulty as usual. So Sunday Cup to start us off, then we've got the European FR Challenge 550 at Dragon Trail Gardens. Middle of the road we've got Race of the Turbo Sports Cars at Interlagos. Then we have this special event once again featuring the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, obviously the hero car of the update from previous, so update 1.40 when this kind of rolled around. So again, great to see that. It was a great race last time, a very good one make race, and I think the Porsche itself really does kind of lend itself to those kind of races. So that's over at Monza. And then finally we have the WTC 700 over at Deep Forest Raceway. All credit rewards once again, 100,000, 150,000 and 500,000 for all 5. So all credit based, and we're going to dive into event number 1, which is going to be the Sunday Cup itself at Lake Maggiore. This is going to be on the centre circuit. I believe we had this one last week as well with the classics. This time around we're just doing the standard Sunday Cup, so more modern vehicles on the grid. So let's go ahead and get straight into the event itself. So I'm going to be using the older Suzuki Swift for this race. Again, a fairly straightforward race. I'm not going to kind of dwell on it too much. I'm pretty sure pretty much anyone can win a 2-lap sprint race around Lake Maggiore centre layout. Again, I'm going to try and use cars that I don't necessarily kind of, I guess, gravitate to. Hence why I use the Suzuki Swift that I think I got from the used car dealer around about day 1 of the game and just never ever bothered to touch. Again, kind of keeps me in line with the AI as well. I don't want to be just kind of breezing away from them. I think it's just not as fun at all, although if you want to, you can pretty much use anything upwards of the likes of the Ferrari VGT and stuff if you really want to. So again, we managed to get ourselves up into first place come the end of lap 1, and again we just have to then complete another lap to get ourselves to the end of the event and give ourselves tick number 1 out of 5, and that's going to actually give us our first reward of the week already. So 7,500 credits just for completing that event itself, and then straight away 100,000 credits on top for a 2-lap sprint. So really not complaining there. Like I said, overall I'm pretty sure that anyone can go ahead and win one of these Sunday Cup races. I've got this turned up to the hardest difficulty, and again, even with something more in line with what's on the grid, it was just an absolute breeze. The AI is going to be an absolute doddle. Again, I'm not really going to sit there and explain how to win a Sunday Cup race. So let's move on to event number 2, which is going to be the European FR Challenge 550 Dragon Trail Gardens. Again, it's going to be sort of roughly around cars of a 550 pp limit, mainly from Europe, obviously running an FR layout. So you're going to see a lot of BMWs mainly. You know, that's the main thing you're going to see on this grid. Now, I went for this, the Izzy Revolta or something like that. Absolutely awful looking VGT vehicle, but one that I just never ever bothered using ever since I've had it. So I thought, you know what, I'll kind of keep to the trend of using things I've never used or maybe used very little, and instantly I regretted my decision because this car is awful. Perhaps one of the worst VGTs in the game, and that's really saying something when the Porsche VGT Roadster exists, and I absolutely hate that vehicle. However, we did manage to take a fairly easy way, managing to take the lead actually just as we went over the line onto lap 2, and at that point we're never going to look back. Again, you're not worrying about tyres, fuel, weather, anything like that. Just go ahead, sprint around, get it done in 3 laps, and you won't have to go back to this event, at least for another few weeks yet, probably ever. So that's tick number 2, and the payout for that one isn't too bad actually for around about the time it takes to do this one. So 37,500 credits with the clean race bonus, and that's going to give us 11 miles on our daily marathon. So in terms of this event, again, I don't really need to give you any pointers. You don't need to worry about fuel, tyre wear, anything like that. Just go ahead, pick a decent enough car that kind of qualifies for the event itself, so a European FR car, and then just go absolutely to town. And I'm pretty sure anyone wants a again can get this one done with relative ease and not really find themselves struggling. On to event number 3 next, we have Race of the Turbo Sports Cars, this time at Interlagos. Now, there is a possibility that I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure this is one of the day 1 Race to the Turbo Sports Cars events. Again, could slightly be wrong on that one. It's going to be a typical 5-lap sprint. You won't need to worry about tyres, fuel, weather, or anything like that once again. However, the difficulty, I would say, is a bit more against you in this one. Although I've got this one turned up to hard and I'm trying to keep it as much in line, you are, PP limited. So 700 is the maximum, so you can't really go ahead and exploit it with some, wacky, ridiculous quick VGT like the Tomahawk and such, but you can very much push the limits. Although the limit for you is 700 pp, I would certainly say a lot of these vehicles that are running around just are nowhere near that. The BMW VGT you're seeing here, I did have turned down on the power around about 699 performance points, and it did manage to absolutely breeze it. Again, another VGT that I've always really liked the look of, just because of the typical classic sort of Group 5 days of the BMW race cars mixed into sort of modern formula, but I've never just used it, and it really wasn't that great in terms of its performance, but did feel fairly cool to look at and stuff. But in terms of taking the win, you shouldn't have much of a problem here. Like I said, I think the main thing you're going to really struggle with is just the fact that the AI here seemed a lot more spread out than they did in the previous 2 races, so you might have to get your foot down for a little bit longer before you can sort of take the lead and sort of begin to cruise around and just get this event done. Again, even with the sort of more stretched out field, I did manage to get it down the inside of the Lancer Evo here and take the lead around about the midpoint of lap 2, and then just never look back. At that point, I did manage to pull out around about a 30-second gap, so to be honest, I don't think you're going to have too many problems here, and I shouldn't really have to explain a strategy or a typical car to use. I'm sure everybody's got a few fairly decent 700 pp builds. In terms of the payout itself, with a clean race bonus, 94,500 credits, and that's going to give us stamp number 3, giving us our 150,000 credit weekly ticket reward. So that's 3 of 5 done. Like I said, in terms of this event, it is relatively straightforward. It's just made a bit more difficult by the fact that it is performance point limited, but I'm sure because of the performance point limit at 700, there's plenty of people with decent 700 builds out there from the likes of Le Mans and such, so you should realistically be able to walk this one. The grid's just a bit more spread out, so expect to be pushing a little bit harder in the early stages before you inevitably take the lead and then just run away with it from there. So yeah, there we go, fairly straightforward event. Let's move on to event number 4 of 5. So moving on to the 4th event, this sees the return of the special events, which I really liked the first time around with the Laguna Seca one, and we're going to get the exact same format with the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, just this time around Monza, being able to make use of the DRS flap and the ridiculous performance that comes with this car. Very much a one-make vehicle. It really does suit this type of racing. So we're going to get it underway. We are going to use the bog standard Porsche, although I believe once again it does give you a limit of something like 700. I'm just going to keep it standard to give myself a bit of competition. We can basically be on the DRS the whole time, and obviously we're up against an equal field, all the same as us. This is a typical one-make race. But again, with this, basically being a GT3 RS and all that stuff, it really does feel like a race car that was, kind of turned into a road car, but not very well. It feels very much more like a race car than it does a road car, and it really does lend itself to very good one-make racing. As you can see, I was just constantly making these late dives and, using the DRS to get myself, up and behind and then overtake down the straights, obviously equally matched. So, you're trying your best to outrun them. It was just absolutely excellent. And again, it does show that when Polyphony actually try and think about the events they're making in terms of one-make and stuff, they can provide very good one-make racing even over a shorter event. So this one's around about 10 minutes long, and again, it's a typical copy-paste from what we saw on week 1, but that's not necessarily a problem considering just how well this car does, provide its racing. So yeah, again, I do feel like Polyphony has really thought about this and thought about the strengths of the vehicle itself and then sort of built events around it. So really it is a great race car, some great overtaking opportunities at Monza. As you can see, I'm constantly just working my way through the field. I did feel like in terms of the difficulty, even with it turned up to the maximum and just using, the default version of this vehicle, that maybe it was just a bit too easy. I felt like, although I had plenty of nice battles, plenty of nice overtakes kind of going through the field, Once I got up to first, I didn't really have to worry about the AI too much. I kind of managed to pull out something like a 5-6 second gap before accidentally dipping it into the gravel and having a spin, but still managed to get away with it and take the win in the end. So I think that's really the only downside, is that because we're not running the likes of Sophie AI, the AI themselves can be relatively too easy and, you know, not very eager to defend, which kind of, you know, does put a bit of a downer on the race. But the event itself is very, very well laid out. Definitely would have preferred maybe Sophie to make an appearance in these special events, maybe sort of a created Sophie event, so we can get these one mate races and, you know, kind of get this, I guess, more competitive side of the AI. I feel like once we kind of got that with a one mate race with these Porsches, it'd have been absolutely incredible to watch the AI defend and really kind of make use of that one mate race. But apart from that, fantastic event. I just feel like it was just, you know, it should have been a bit more difficult. So there we go, finishing up the 5 laps. That's going to be stamp number 4, our second ever special limited time event. 81,000 credits without the clean race bonus, but that's going to take me over 100 mil anyway and give me a 4-star ticket for my daily marathon reward. So in terms of this event, I feel like, you know, you could probably abuse it quite a bit by going up to the 700 limit. Would I recommend doing it? I would say actually no. Try and keep this as competitive as possible, and I feel like you're going to have a much better time experience this car and experiencing this event than you would by just absolutely breezing it. At the end of the day, you know, it's a enjoyable event. It's a little bit on the short side, but it is what it is. Definitely nice to see that these special events are going to become a at least semi-regular thing, and, you know, they're not just going to disappear or just appear maybe once every update or so. So yeah, great to see. Okay, so the final event of the week, this is going to be the WTC 700. I think we all know this from the Le Mans grind, which feels like forever ago since I've run that. But yes, again, same vehicles, same type of vehicles. This time at the Deep Forest Raceway, though, for 10 laps around there. Not as long as some of the other, you know, WTC 700 events, but still something a bit more on the lengthier side and a bit more endurance focused. So I went to use my BTCC liveried M4 Group 4. So just in terms of running this event, I did notice that the fuel consumption itself and the tyre wear were very, very high in comparison to some of the other events. So definitely recommend just take a set of hards, or pick a car that even if the tyres start to wear off, you're going to feel comfortable driving around. Definitely recommend Fuel Mix 6. As you can see, it's going down quite a bit, meaning that I am almost certainly going to be forced to take a pit stop. I wouldn't recommend running a road car build. If you have got sort of a 700 pp build for the road, you'll probably be pitting every, you know, 3 to 4 laps, even running Fuel Mix 6. I tried a Genesis build I had for WTC 700 quite a while ago now, and yeah, it just did not work. It was far too, you know, heavy on the fuel consumption. So I definitely recommend sort of heading towards the race cars for this. So I went and did my one and only stop at the end of lap 5. As you can see here, we're just following the Corvette in. We're going to box in and then put on a set of softs. See, the main reason for this, although I knew the tyre wear was a bit on the high side, I did feel comfortable enough that if the sort of tyres completely go off the M4, that I would be okay driving it. And I also needed the extra pace, considering that I was pretty much limited to running Fuel Mix 6 and couldn't turn the engine up, so I wanted to be as quick as possible. When I come out the pits, I come out in 12th. Obviously some of the cars are still yet to pit, but I did manage to basically get myself stuck in a big bunch of them, meaning that, you know, I was really trying to get, you know, a shift on, but I've got the AI sort of in the way, and I'm going to try and do my best to kind of thread through those and you know, make my way up the grid. Obviously in front of me I had the Corvette and the Viper. Now I did manage to catch the Dodge Viper sort of pottering about on its own on lap 9. Again, it just seemed like, although it had plenty of performance in the early stages of the race, that, you know, pretty much all of the AI just sort of dropped off performance wise come the end of the race, and that's going to give us a nice easy win after 10 laps. So there we go, across the line in the M4, and that's going to be our final win of the week and event number 5 in terms of the stamps, and obviously our final reward. So 110,000 credits without the clean race bonus, obviously 50% bonus if you get that, and the 500% credit ticket as well, meaning that we now once again have all our rewards that was on offer for this week for GT7 weekly challenges. In terms of this final event, like I said, definitely gravitate more towards the race cars. I feel like it does suit those, just in terms of sort of the fuel consumption and the tyre life. Again, I did try with a road car and it just absolutely drank the fuel, and I would have been pitting every kind of like 2-3 laps, and I just had no chance on turning the engine up, and it's not really fun when you're constantly stopping over and over again. So head towards the race cars and you should be absolutely fine to get this event done and dusted. You won't have to worry about weather or anything like that. So since I'm already at 100 million credits, I didn't kind of want to open and kind of waste the credit tickets themselves. So I'm not actually going to show you the reward opening or anything this week. Again, they're all credit tickets. There's no cards or anything like that. So if you do need a nice little kind of financial boost, there's probably no better way currently than actually doing these. And they do kind of make more sense as a nice little bonus, considering things like the sort of Daytona AFK money methods kind of been turned down and changed up so much. So they are definitely are more worthwhile, but I think there's going to be a lot of us that are probably still sat at 100 million credits and not necessarily spending too much in terms of those credits either. But yeah, again, same as last week, all credit rewards. I'm not going to bother opening them because I'm at 100 mil, but you all know the rewards. So it's 100,000, 150,000 for free, and then 500,000 for completing all 5. Not too bad. Great to see the return of special events. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.